Shalawama, Shalawama. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School, Islam to all the Moors. Let's get started with Leo. All right, we're going to continue rather with Leo. We are on page 117. Our new subheading is Spiritual Lessons of Leo. All right, so give me a moment. Let me send out, I'm going to share the link right now. I would like for each of you guys to do the same. Scholars, please. Share the link. I'm going to share it on my Twitter. I'm going to share it on my LinkedIn. I think it's my LinkedIn handle is Yasapa All. That's Yasapa and then AL. So let me share it there. Okay, so I'm back. I lost the signal somehow. So let me share it out, and you guys do the same. Share it to your Facebook. Let's make it do what it do. Again, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome back. We will begin this presentation on page 117, okay, page 117. Our new subheading is the spiritual lessons of Leo. The spiritual lessons of Leo. Let me get my tea together. So it's 6 a.m. in the morning here in beautiful Vietnam, okay, in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon. All right. So this is a free herbal tea that they give. Whenever you go into a coffee shop, they'll give you some variety of free herbal tea. Usually it's going to be black tea, which is very good for your health. The Vietnamese people are very in tune to nature. And it's one of the things I like most about Vietnam. Very nature oriented. And very much into herbs and things like that also. Flowers, and they have a really beautiful culture. All right, and my usual black cafe, which they call black coffee, which they did not prepare properly for me the way I usually like it, but that's okay. Usually I take my coffee, they call coffee cafe here. Some young person served me. And I tell y'all, when I go to a restaurant, number one, I don't want a man to serve me. I'm not talking about this place, but just me in general from my experience in my life. Men tend to usually not wash their hands, dirty hands, or they're very, they just throw whatever they're gonna give you together, and usually I don't like a man to serve me anything. I mean, I don't want to buy nothing from a guy, to be honest with you, because of their, most of them are just not, I can't think of any other word to say but together, Give me 1 second. So this guy served me, I want to replace my order. Give me one moment, y'all. Ah, man. But anyway. And he's not looking up. So a man will typically sweep a floor, mop a floor, and then turn around and not wash his hands. And I'm not saying every woman will, but I've seen the tendency is more so with men to be like that, just not clean, or dirty fingernails and all of that stuff. I don't want you to serve me anything if your hands are dirty. But anyway, let's go on with the lesson. I'll try to get my order together a little bit later. Like and share the video. If you stay here more than 5 minutes, like the video, subscribe if you haven't. If you don't, I'm inviting you to leave. If you don't like it, that means you shouldn't stay. Don't stick around for something. Don't participate in something that you don't like. Okay, so just go. If you stay, like the video because you're staying because you like it, right? Okay, so here we are, the spiritual lessons of Leo. I'm at all, let me repeat that. I am all at once what Christ is. Since he was what I am, that's quite confusing, right? Let me start that again. I am all at once what Christ is. Since he was what I am, and this jack, joke, poor potsherd, patch, matchwood, immortal diamond is immortal diamond. I don't get this at all. This is by Jared Manley Hopkins, born July 28th, 1844. Now, what I can tell you is that Jack, are you aware that Jack is the tetragrammaton? Did y'all know that? Jack, yes indeed, Jack is the tetragrammaton. Go back and check the Devil's Pulpit. You'll see plenty of names, English names, and you'll be surprised which ones actually are the tetragrammaton. But Jack is the tetragrammaton. Okay? On a journey to Caesarea Philippe, there's a footnote which reads, first Messiah is Hebrew, Christ is Greek. They both mean the anointed one. All right? Actually, you can go into a very, very long discussion about what we just read. The Hebrew Messiah and the Greek Christ, actually, they do have different meanings. One, Christ is Christos, which means oil. Okay, Christ is Christos, it means oil. There were many Hebrew messiahs, many. These are leaders, basically leaders, leaders in war. Some people call that a savior. Maybe you can call it a commander, a general, but essentially a leader. Now those are my words, right? I'm calling it essentially a leader. In religion, you'll hear a savior, people who go out and fight for you or save you. Okay, so in that context, there are many messiahs, right? Just like there are many Christs. In fact, in history, there are 13 or more. Oh, man. In history, there are 13 or more Christ figures, okay, in different eras of time. Y'all need to research that. There are 13 or more Christ figures, just like JC in the Bible. All the parallels match up. Okay, 12 companions, everything matches up. There are 12. But anyway, Christos has esoteric meaning also. But anyway, let's see where the author takes us with this, okay? Let's see where he takes it. Now, but the interesting thing is this. If you come from a nationalistic, look at this from a nationalistic point of view. Okay, nationalistic point of view versus a religious point of view. So the nationalism would be the nation of Yasharala as a nation, and their concept of a savior, all right? Somebody who leads them and frees them or prevents them from being in a bad situation, whatever it might be, right? So there are many messiahs. Doesn't necessarily have to be a military messiah, okay? But now, take that same concept and apply it, let's say, in Rome or in the Greek language, and instead of being nationalistic, look at it from a religious point of view, okay? From a religious point of view, and now you're using Roman language to capture the meaning of an Ibaryath word. So this can really get sticky, depending on how much of a detailed analysis you want to get into this, all right? So anointed, y'all know what anointed with oil. Now people who are in the religion would say, well, no, he was anointed by Holy Spirit. So now we get into all things we have to imagine, right? And things we need to accept. But what I'm trying to say is that the cultures do not match up. Okay, so with the House of Yasharala, it's a cultural thing. But when you go into Christianity, it is a religious thing. All right, so you should be aware of this difference. And that there are 13 different Christ figures. Okay, so how far do you want to spread the net of imagination? Metaphors, etc., etc. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say to you? In different eras of time. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to it. On our journey to Caesarea Philippi, JC asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" The text goes on. They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets. But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" This is coming from Mark 8, verse 28 and 29. Conventionally, this episode is read as a record on an actual discussion between JC and his disciples, in which JC reveals the secret of his own unique status as the Christ or Messiah. Now, these terms are presented in religion as parallels, but they are not parallels. They are not parallel terms. I mean, they are not equivalent terms, rather. Okay? So so conventionally, the author is saying the religions teach, or the primary doctrine is. Conventionally, this episode is read as a record of an actual discussion between JC and his disciples, in which JC reveals the secret of his own unique status as the Christ or Messiah of Jewish expectation. Okay, so now here, scholars, you might take note that status, y'all see that word status? Status is important. Your status is important. Let me repeat it. Your status is important. But such an approach is fraught with problems, as scholars have discovered. Okay, so, sir, wait. This is not hot. Not hot.
So,
Thank you. Can you wash your hands?
yeah.
Wash your hands first before you... wash your hands. It's okay.
Hot. Yeah.
Okay, y'all. Let me continue. He means well, but Oh, man. All right. So the traditional or the accepted doctrine is that JC had a discussion with his apostles about his status as being the Messiah. Or let me repeat that, as being the Christ who is the expected Messiah in Jewish tradition. Now, so that in itself is messy, right? Because if they are Jewish, let me repeat that. If they are bloodline House of Yasharala, okay, and they're speaking Aramaic, they're speaking in Aramaic language, why then, first of all, why would they be speaking in Aramaic? I mean, everybody knows that story, right? But why would they be speaking in Aramaic if they are truly, Gamma, if they are the nation, if they're truly Yasharala nationals, let's put it like that. They're truly Yasharala nationals. Why would they be speaking in Aramaic? Have y'all ever thought about that? If they know the culture, if they know the language, why would they speak in Aramaic and that's not their language? Now the problem is, if they don't know Ibaryath, so for those of y'all who don't know any better, if they don't know Hebrew, how would they know the stories? How would they have any knowledge of the stories if they don't even know Hebrew or Ibaryath? How would they know? But then they're speaking in Aramaic, but these words are written in Greek. And Christ's words, the quotations, are quoted in Greek. Y'all see how messy this is? That's just my point of view. That's my point of view. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Because if they spoke Ibaryath, they would have had the discussion in Ibaryath, or what y'all call Hebrew. So it's an admission. Speaking in Aramaic is an admission that they did not know these stories firsthand from their forefathers. Because those stories were spoken in Ibaryath. Y'all follow me? But such an approach is fraught with problems. That is, that they actually had a discussion. JC had a discussion about his status as being the Christ. All right? As scholars have discovered, to begin with, Mark's JC is manifestly not the Christ of Jewish expectation. Let me repeat this. This is on page 117. Mark's Jesus is manifestly not the Christ of Jewish expectation. Let me show y'all this. All right, so this is for you religionists. Y'all see us there, page 117. All right, now you can start your research here. Mark's Jesus is manifestly not the Christ of Jewish expectation. Unlike Matthew and Luke, Mark does not say that JC was born in Bethlehem, the city of David, which Micah has predicted would be the Messiah's birthplace. Now, go back. You can get this verse in Micah chapter 5, verse 2. Micah chapter 5, verse 2. Let me repeat it again. Mark's Jesus is manifestly not the Christ or the Messiah, right, of Jewish expectation. Unlike Matthew and Luke, Mark is alleged to be the first gospel. If you didn't hear what I said, Mark is supposed to be the first gospel. Mark does not say that JC was born in Bethlehem, the city of David, which Micah has predicted would be the Messiah's birthplace. So, scholars understand. The prophecy at Micah 5:2 that Micah gave to identify the Messiah was not fulfilled in Mark's gospel. And Mark's gospel is allegedly the first of the gospels. How then can you say that JC is the Messiah of Jewish expectation? Now, I'm saying of Jewish expectation because our ancient ancestors in the nation, they never, ever look for some future Messiah to come and bring a kingdom. Right? Joshua brought the people into the promised land. I know there's a whole doctrine related to this, but there's nothing that Moses said to indicate that some kingdom would come from heaven and that there would be a Messiah, okay, who would rule and all of that's not what Moses said. Moses said, return to the Most High. He says, when you get kicked out of the land and you experience the curses, right? This is at Deuteronomy 30. He said, return to the Most High. Start following his commandments, and then the Most High will have compassion on you and bring you back into your land and bring you back into the promised land, and that the promised land would be restored. That's the promise. This kingdom coming on the earth and all of this, that's all made up religion. Has nothing to do with the book of the law, with Moses' words. Absolutely nothing. I hope it's clear. So, Matthew's gospel is confirming that JC, the Christ figure of the New Testament, was not born in Bethlehem, the city of David. Let me read it again. It says, unlike Matthew and Luke, Mark does not say that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, the city of David, which Micah had predicted would be the Messiah's birthplace. So why is it that Mark and Luke does? Were they making a correction? I mean, I don't know. Let's see what the author has to say. In addition, it is unlikely that Jesus was of the Davidic line. Well, now I want to see that evidence. As an inhabitant of Galilee in the north, his ancestry would hardly be from the tribe of Judah, which was located in the south of the country around Jerusalem. Well, there's another big problem for you, right? Another big problem. Another big problem. I'm going to read this again. Again, this is page 117. In addition, and this is something to go discuss with your pastors, your Moshes, and all, or whatever title, whatever, your religious leader, you go discuss this with them. Send them an email, call them, text them. This is page 117. The Gospels and the Zodiac, The Secret Truth About J.C. the Christ Figure by the Reverend Bill Darrell-El. All right? So here's the sentence again. In addition, it is unlikely that Jesus was of the Davidic line. Y'all see that? There it is. Now don't get mad at me. I'm presenting you with the information for you to go do your follow-up research and to discuss this with your religious leader. Okay. It is unlikely that Jesus was of the Davidic line. As an inhabitant of Galilee in the north, his ancestry would hardly be from the tribe of Judah, which was located in the south of the country around Jerusalem. Y'all got that? Judah lived in the south around Jerusalem, not in Galilee. The only individual who calls him, quote unquote, son of David in Mark's gospel is blind. Y'all got that? The only person who calls JC the son of David in Mark's gospel is a blind man. Mark chapter 10, verse 46 through 52. And JC seems to repudiate this title in chapter 12, verses 35 through 37, a passage which has proved very problematical for most conventional exegetes. Let me show y'all here. So this is where y'all want to begin reading, right where my finger is, those lines right there. Right where my finger is here. All right? So I would like to know if any of the Christian or Hebrew Israelite Christian pastors or researchers or scholars have ever investigated this, and if you're willing to investigate it and come on here and share it. Because I certainly would like to know if there's any truth to it. That was so different and interesting, I'm going to read that again. All right. To begin with, Mark's Jesus is manifestly not the Christ of Jewish expectation. Unlike Matthew and Luke, Mark does not say that JC was born in Bethlehem, the city of David, which Micah had predicted would be the Messiah's birthplace. This is Micah chapter 5, verse 2. In addition, it is unlikely that Jesus was of the Davidic line. It is unlikely that Jesus is the offspring of David. It is unlikely that Jesus was of the Davidic line. As an inhabitant, or in other words, the reason for this, the evidence for this, is that as an inhabitant of Galilee in the north, Jesus' ancestry would hardly be from the tribe of Judah, which was located in the south of the country, somewhere around Jerusalem. So which tribe was in Galilee? And then where did he get this information? That's what I would like to know. Which tribe was in Galilee? Whatever tribe was in Galilee, clearly that's what Jesus, lineage would have been. He would have been of that tribe. That's what the author is saying. Okay? The only individual who calls Jesus, quote unquote, son of David in Mark's gospel is blind. We find this at Mark chapter 10, verse 46 through 52. And Jesus seems to repudiate this title in Mark chapter 12, verse 35 through 37, a passage which has proved very problematic for most conventional religious people, the religious scholars. Y'all got that? Very problematic. Now, I'm curious. Now, when I was in religion, I never heard this. How about you guys, scholars? Have you heard about this information before? I have not. I have not. Most telling of all, so there's more evidence. Most telling of all, however, let me go back. So what the author is saying, Jesus seems to repudiate this. So the author is saying, one, Jesus was born in Galilee. Therefore, it is highly unlikely that he is of the tribe of Judah, because the tribe of Judah lives in the south near Jerusalem. Secondly, no one in Mark's gospel ever called JC son of David. Okay, so if he was of the tribe of David, he would have been called a son of David. But no one ever called him that but a blind man. And when that blind man called Jesus a son of David, Jesus was offended, or he repudiated it. Right? How are you going to call me somebody else's son? I'm not his son. Y'all got that? I'm not his son. All right? That's at Mark 12, 35 through 37. Now, there's a third piece of evidence. I'm going to read it now, which is, according to this, is stronger than the last two. Most telling of all the evidence presented, however, is the fact that Jesus does not fulfill the role of Messiah in any way that was even remotely comprehensible to the Jews. In other words, the prophecies of what the Messiah would do, Jesus didn't fulfill them. Not even close. All right? So the Jews expected one thing from the Messiah, and the Christ did not even come close to doing those things. So let's continue reading. Now I'm on page 117. I'm going to show you this. This is the final paragraph on the page, where my fingers are, right here. Paragraph right here, where my thumb is, rather. Y'all read that. Okay? Let's continue. The most telling of all, however, is the fact that Jesus does not fulfill the role of Messiah in any way. Not 5 out of 10, not 4 out of 10, not even 3 out of 10, not even 2 out of 10, not even 1 out of 10 of the ways. In any way, 0. Jesus didn't fulfill the role of the Messiah expected by the Jews in any ways. Okay? Jesus did not fulfill the role of Messiah in any way that was even remotely comprehensible to the Jews. Okay, comprehensible to the Jews means what? That means, as I mentioned earlier, when we first began this presentation, in the Ibaryath, those stories were preserved. So if these people, these so-called Jews, are bloodline House of Yasharala nationals, they would have been speaking Ibaryath what y'all call Hebrew, and these stories would have been passed down to them, right? They would have been passed down to them. But the fact is that these are Jews, religious people called Jews, who are speaking Aramaic, and the gospel, the New Testament Gospels, are penned in Greek. And the term used, Christ, is Greek. Messiah is Ibaryath, right? But yet, why didn't they put it in the Aramaic, the language that they spoke? But those of you who know better, you know that the Gospels were initially what? Penned in Coptic Egyptian. From Coptic Egyptian, they were translated into Latin. And from Latin, they were translated into Greek. Okay? To hide, to cover up their Coptic Egyptian origin. Right? To muddy up that water. So this is a very messy story. Very, very messy. And you need to believe, at least from my point of view, you need to believe in order to accept all of this stuff. What I mean by believe is you need to turn off your analytical, critical mind, critical thinking abilities. Okay? All right, so let's continue. Okay. Most telling of all, however, is the fact that Jesus does not fulfill the role of Messiah in any way that was even remotely comprehensible to the Jews, which is why the Jewish people to this day have difficulty in accepting him as such. All right, so the Jewish people at that time and at this time have difficulty accepting the Christ as the expected Jewish Messiah because he didn't fulfill the role. The Messiah was to be a literal leader. Y'all got that? A literal leader, not a metaphorical or symbolical leader. The Messiah was supposed to be a literal leader who, as Psalms chapter 2 declares, would, quote, break the heathen nations with a rod of iron and dash them into pieces like a potter's vessel. That's verse 9, which JC of the Gospels does not even attempt, let alone achieve. Y'all see that? So what are people going to say? What are the religious leaders going to say about this? They're going to tell you, oh, no, JC's going to come back, right? He's going to come back and do all of this stuff. That's what their doctrine is going to tell you. In which case, now you have to believe. And you have to put together a doctrine. Okay, the conventional Christian response to this is to claim that the Jewish people were wrong to expect this type of Messiah, and that the nature of the real Messiah is to be found in the suffering servant. Is to be found in the suffering servant songs of Isaiah chapter 52 and 53. However, nowhere in Mark do we find references other than exceedingly oblique ones to this section of Isaiah. Okay, so there you go. Mark is not even really dealing with, he's definitely not dealing with Isaiah 52 and 53 directly, according to what we just read here. It is Matthew who quotes from these verses. So Matthew quotes from Isaiah 52 and 53 in an attempt to give Jesus better messianic credentials. Y'all see that? How they're editing the story, massaging the story to be what they want it to be? See that? They just threw in a new gospel, called it Matthew, And then they gave JC some of the attributes of a suffering servant, right? Found in Isaiah chapter 52 and 53. Okay? So that quote is coming from Matthew chapter 12, verse 15 through 21. He makes Jesus a clear personification of the suffering servant. Whereas for Jewish exegists, the whole nation of Israel was and is the embodiment of this Old Testament figure. So y'all see how they're playing games with these doctrines? Why do you think they're playing games with these doctrines? I'll tell you why. To confuse you, right? See, if you're confused, most people, when you confuse most people, they're going to say, well, I don't know, so I'm just going to take pastor's word for it. Or I don't know, so I'm just going to go with whichever one seems right, or whichever one I like best. Y'all see what I mean? So you've turned off your analytical or critical mind, and then you've just accepted. Why? Because you're confused. And you want to believe. See, if you're confused and you didn't want to believe, you would say, well, you know what? I don't really understand this, so I'm going to back up off of it. You'd be like that. Okay? That's the cautious, wise person. That's the cautious, wise person. You wouldn't do anything you don't understand. You don't accept something that you don't fully understand. I mean, totally understand. Completely. So let's continue. And I can hear what the religious leaders would say right now, listening to me. Oh, he don't understand prophecy. He don't understand prophecy. I can just hear it now. But the point is that the Messiah was supposed to do physical things. He was supposed to be a literal commander. Literally break the nations with iron. At that time he came. Not come as a lamb and then come back as a lion. Right? Now I need to believe you. So what, another failed attempt? All right. The Messiah was to be a literal leader who, as Psalms chapter 2 declares, would break the heathen nations with a rod of iron. And let me tell you, this is not in the book of the law. The way we return is one Yasharala man and woman at a time, returning to natural law, following the Most High's commandments. And then when we do that, the Most High would then do what? Acknowledge it and then turn the curses on those people who have oppressed us. That's the way out. Not all of this stuff. Joshua literally went to war in those stories, right? He literally went to war in those stories. He didn't leave and then come back. I mean, he didn't do let's say what JC did. He didn't do nothing militarily, right? As a leader. Get killed and then come back as no, that didn't happen. Joshua came out, according to the stories, fighting battles as a military commander, military leader. Okay? So let's continue. Okay, Matthew makes JC a clear personification of the suffering servant. So here, whoever it was that wrote Matthew or edited Matthew said, well, wait a minute, we need a Christ figure who's going to be the type of personality we need the people to be so that we can rule them easily, so that we can take whatever they got without them fighting back, and who we can dominate with the least amount of effort. And this is the suffering servant. So they said, we're going to make JC like that. And they just wrote that in there. Wrote it in there like that, right? Edited, okay, all right, that sounds good, this sounds good, okay, that's what we need, okay. Boom, print it. This is what it, scholars, listen, translators insert doctrine. That's their job. They insert their doctrine, okay, to make their doctrine more appealing to you and to achieve their ends as an organization. In the same way that McDonald's spends time researching and developing new products and processes to make hamburgers and French fries, right? And milkshakes. KFC is doing the same thing. Well, these Bible translators are doing the same thing. Their doctrine is their menu. Y'all follow me? Their doctrine is their menu. And when they want to do something else, they just go in and they make some changes to it, right? And then they'll go out and say, oh, an archaeologist discovered this artifact at this time and that time. And it says this and it says that. And you, wanting to believe, you believe it. Oh, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Oh, the Greek Septuagint. Oh, all of these artifacts are found. And y'all never think. If someone lies to you, steals from you, tries to kill you, kills people in your family, kills people in your community, oppresses you, is a known liar, is a known thief, is a known hoodlum and thug. And their organization has a long history of that type of behavior and character. And then you're going to turn around and believe them when they tell you they found some artifacts? When they tell you anything, you're going to believe them? And you know that their whole MO is about ruling over you and dominating you? Genociding you out? You're going to believe them? Now do you see why people call the black people, the African Americans, they call them children? That's why they call them children. All right? The mind of a child. So you don't expect your parents to hurt you, do you? But you may have a parent who, for whatever reason, hates you, envious of you, right? And they're doing everything that they can to hurt you and to hold you down. You think, oh, a mother wouldn't do that, a father wouldn't do that. But you go out here and ask any psychiatrist, or no, an experienced psychiatrist, or even experienced psychologist in that area, there are plenty of parents who hurt their own children intentionally, who intentionally have destroyed their own children's lives. But the child almost never suspects the parent. Okay, the child almost never suspects the parent in life. And then the parent successfully destroys that child's life. Okay? Or holds that child down. It's the same thing with the African Americans and the blacks, the Negroes. They're looking at the hybrid troglodyte Paleolithic nigger who classifies itself as white. That's their God, their parent. They won't admit it. But you turn around, let somebody say there's an epidemic or a pandemic or any other type of urgent situation. They're going to do what mommy and daddy said. Or if they need to know something, you think they're going to listen to me or somebody who looks like me? Or they're going to listen to the white man? Y'all know what they're going to do. All right. So let's continue. Such anomalies have led commentators to make all manner of speculation about JC's role as Messiah. Reed, for instance, writing at the beginning of the 20th century, considered this section of Mark's gospel was really an attempt to come to terms with the fact that Jesus had never claimed to be the Messiah in his lifetime, and that the title had only been accorded him by his followers after his death. Y'all got that? So nobody ever called JC the Messiah during his lifetime, but his followers, after he died, they began to call him the Messiah. Okay? Hence, the secrecy motif which pervades, let me repeat that. Hence, the secrecy motif which pervades these verses. However, there is no need to resort to such reasoning, dependent as it is upon an overly literal view of what it means to be the Messiah. So here we go. He said the overly literal view of what it means to be the Messiah. So now, the author is telling us that it's not literal. See, if it's literal, you're in the real world. You're in reality, right? It's literal. It's something you can see, hear, taste, touch, smell. It really happened in history. It's literal. Now, the author is saying it's overly literal. He's about to take us where? He's about to take us into our imagination. Okay? This is the takeoff pad. This is the takeoff pad, right? For what? Narrative what? Narrative transportation. This is what he's about to do. All right, let me get back to it. Let me find my place. Where is it? Okay, however, there is no need to resort to such reasoning, dependent as it is upon an overly literal view of what it means to be Messiah. That there is secrecy here, there can be no doubt. All right, so we have an admission. But it is not the secrecy born of expediency. In other words, you got to cover over the lie, so therefore you keep it a secret, right? Mark's secret is the same as Paul's secret. It is the mystery that has been kept hidden for ages and generations. Well, let me stop. If it's a mystery, how do you know that this secret is that mystery? See, it's a mystery. That means you don't know. Right? Mr. Author, you don't know the mystery. So how can you then say that this is that mystery? No, you cannot. Y'all see that? Christ didn't do, JC the Christ figure didn't do anything that the Messiah was supposed to do. Absolutely nothing. But the author, again, for repetition, the author is saying that the reason why is that it is a mystery. Well, if it's a mystery, how can you know that Christ not doing anything to fulfill the role of Messiah is that mystery? Nobody knows. You're guessing. And your guess is just as good as the other 9 billion or 8 billion, however many billions of people are on the planet right now. Your guess is no better than their guess or my guess. Do y'all see that? Okay, it is the mystery that has been kept hidden for ages and generations, but is now disclosed to the saints. To them, capital G-O-D has chosen to make known among the Gentiles the glorious riches of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. This is Colossians 1, 26 and 27. Now, what does that have to do with the literal expectation that Christ, that the Jewish Messiah would come back and be a leader, right? A commander, fight battles? Again, here's the secret. To them, capital G-O-D, has chosen to make known among the Gentiles, Doesn't say anything about the what? So-called Jews, or even the nationals. It says nothing. To them, capital G-O-D, has chosen to make known among the Gentiles the glorious riches of this mystery, which is Christ in you. Oh, so now Christ is in me. The hope of glory. Well, he said that to the Gentiles. He didn't say that to the nationals. And he didn't say it to the Jewish religious people. So this is real slick, y'all. Real slick. Y'all following me? You need to believe this. Again, let me read this again. It is the mystery that has been kept hidden for ages and generations. So the author is saying this mystery is that Christ would not be a literal commander, a literal leader, as Micah prophesied in Micah chapter 5, verse 2. So y'all do realize, Micah chapter 5, verse 2, y'all do realize that if this is the case, then Micah is a false prophet. Micah would have to be a false prophet, right? Therefore, you have to disregard Micah. Y'all see that? If Colossians 1, 26 and 27 say it's true, then that means Micah chapter 5, verse 2 is a lie. Psalms chapter 82, Psalms chapter 2 is also a false prophecy. Y'all got that? Micah 5, verse 2. JC number 1 is not born of the line of David. Okay, so that means he's not in Judah, not of the tribe of Judah. All right? Psalms chapter 2. He doesn't do anything as a military leader or commander. He doesn't break the nations. Okay? He doesn't do that. In fact, he doesn't fulfill any of the role of Messiah expected by the Jews. Now, why is this? According to Paul, well, because it's a mystery. That's why, because it's a mystery. Now go ahead and accept it. Right? Wait a minute. I had, $10,000 in my bank account. What happened to it? And the bank tells you, oh, it's a mystery. You need to accept it. Your money's gone. It's a mystery how it left. Y'all got that? It's a mystery. You need to accept it. And you say, oh, well, all right. Okay, well, that makes sense to me, right? This is the same type of thing. You need to accept it as a mystery that has been kept hidden for the ages. And you have false prophets now. Micah, false prophet. Psalms 2, also false prophecy. Also false prophecy. Y'all see it? Also a false prophecy. So those are made false prophecies so that Colossians chapter 1, 26, 27 can be made true. So y'all do what y'all want with that. Let me check the time. Do what you want with that. All right. This section of the gospel attempts to teach us that messiahship is not embodied in one individual, historical character, but that it is a status. Well, now your nationality, your birthright, that status has been replaced with the Christian status. Let me repeat that. Genesis chapter 2, Moors. Your status as the rightful heir and owner of all land, energies, and resources on the planet, that you are the sovereign lawmaker, that you can give property and you can receive property through the generations. This status as sovereign has been replaced. Christianity replaces that status with you having a status of a suffering servant. The suffering servant of Isaiah 52, 53. Y'all see that? Now you are a suffering servant. You went from the rightful heir, the sovereign, the owner, the sovereign, the rightful heir.
Hello?
Everything is yours. You're expected to live a very wealthy, fulfilling life. Health and peace. All of that now gone. Now you are a suffering servant. And you need to be happy in your new status as a suffering servant. See, if there's a servant, there's a master. So you just went from being the master to the servant. And you're expected to be happy in your role as the servant or as the debtor. Y'all follow that? The master, the sovereign is the creditor. The servant is the debtor. And here it is for you, right here, as we just read. Christianity changes your status. Suffering servant, that means you're in bondage. That takes you back to what? That takes you back to Genesis chapter 1. Okay? That's also what? That also puts you in the curses. Right? You're in bondage, in poverty. You're a suffering servant. Okay? Civil liter mortuus, right? You've lost your status. You've lost your connection to your bloodline. All of that. That's the capitis diminutio and all of that stuff, okay? So let's continue. So you gave up your status in Christianity. You give up your status. To be the Messiah, because Christ is in you, right? To be the Messiah, the Christ, to be agents of transformation in the world, we have to become fully persuaded of our relationship with capital G-O-D and fully committed to the welfare of others who are equal sharers in divine sonship and daughtership. That may be so, but they have a different what? They have a different land allotment, a different inheritance. Okay? That maybe they have no land. Maybe they have nothing. So you're supposed to keep your inheritance. Okay? Who do you say I am? Is not a question asked once for all by Jesus of Peter. It is a question that all of us ask ourselves at some time or other. Now, again, this requires us to do what? Imagine. Okay, because that's not what was written in the document. We're being asked to imagine that this is so and to accept it. And we must keep reminding ourselves of the correct answer. Okay? So, if y'all want to believe all of this hocus pocus, if you want to exchange your status as a wealthy owner, creditor of everything, think about that. If you want to exchange that for having Christ in you and changing your status to a suffering servant, then to me, something's got to be wrong with you. You're out of your mind. But the Negro, the African American, the colored, the Latino, all of you have been trained to do what? Accept being on the bottom. You're trained to accept being a servant, accept being last in line. You're trained to accept that. Okay, not just in your everyday life with the social engineering, but through Christianity. You're trained to accept it. That's why when I tell people you are the power, they get offended. When I tell people I am the power, I'm all intelligence, I'm all wisdom, they become offended. Right? But that's Psalms 82:6. I'm not saying I created everything. I'm saying I'm Psalms 82:6. Right? I'm the power. I'm the power who saves myself. Anyway, I hope y'all got something from this. I think at this point, the most significant, for me, the most significant learning that I got from this is a change of status. Now, of course, I already knew that, but it's expressed. The way he built his case was very logical and fun. The way he built his case, even though he doesn't realize what he's doing, but the clear connection to the exchange of one status to the other is just very, very clear, right? All right. Anyway, Shalom and Islam to all the Moors.